The town of Brinewick clings to the coast like a barnacle to a ship's hull. Its houses are old, with roofs the color of slate and walls stained by sea spray. The wind here never truly sleeps. It whispers through narrow, cobbled streets, carrying the scent of salt and drying nets. It tells stories to those who listen, stories of sailors who never returned, of smugglers who vanished into the fog, and of a ghost that is not quite human. The oldest and strangest story is about the salt cat. They say it walks the docks on the foggiest nights, a creature made of sea mist and moonlight, its eyes glowing like twin embers in the gloom. It is a guardian, a phantom, a memory that refuses to fade with the tide. The people of Brinewick grew up with the legend. Children dare each other to walk the length of the old stone pier after dark, hoping for and fearing a glimpse of the spectral feline. Old fishermen mending their nets with gnarled, patient hands will lower their voices when they speak of it. They say the salt cat doesn't meow. It makes no sound at all. Its presence is a feeling, a sudden chill in the air, the prickle of unseen eyes on the back of your neck. It is a warning, a sign. If you see the salt cat staring out to sea, a storm is coming. If it looks directly at you, misfortune is not far behind. It is a part of the town, as much as the sea itself. The legend is woven into the very fabric of Brinewick. It is carved into the wooden beams of the town's oldest tavern, the Anchor and Chain. A faint etching of a cat with a strange, swirling pattern in its fur can be found there, if you know where to look. Tourists might dismiss it as a charming piece of local folklore, a silly ghost story to entertain visitors. But the locals know better. They have seen the faint, shimmering outline of a cat vanish around a corner. They have found unexplained paw prints made of salt water on dry floorboards. The salt cat is real, they insist. It is the town's oldest resident, its silent, watchful protector. Its story is a sad one, tied to the sea and to a love lost to its depths. It is not a tale of a simple pet, but of a bond so strong that not even death could break it. The cat is a keeper of secrets, a guardian of a long-forgotten promise. It walks the line between the world of the living and the world of what comes after, forever bound to the salty air and the relentless rhythm of the waves. It waits for something, or someone, and as long as it waits, the story of the salt cat will be whispered on the winds of Brinewick, passed from one generation to the next, a haunting lullaby sung by the sea. The story of the salt cat begins long ago, in a time when Brinewick was a den of shadows and secrets. 2 centuries past, the town thrived on smuggling. Barrels of brandy and bolts of silk were moved under the cloak of darkness, hidden from the watchful eyes of the king's men. In this world lived a woman named Eliza Marrow. She was no ordinary woman. She was the captain of her own smuggling vessel, the Sea Serpent, and she was cleverer and braver than any man on the coast. Eliza had hair the color of a stormy sunset and eyes that held the depth of the ocean. She knew the secret coves and hidden sea caves better than she knew the back of her own hand. Eliza was never truly alone. At her side, always, was a strange and beautiful cat. It was a creature of unusual markings, its gray fur swirling in patterns that looked like sea foam. She had found it as a kitten, a lone survivor of a shipwreck, clinging to a piece of driftwood. She named it Salt, for it was born of the sea. Salt was her shadow, her confidant. It would perch on her shoulder as she steered the sea serpent through treacherous waters, its gaze fixed on the horizon. The crew whispered that the cat was more than just a pet. They said it could smell a coming storm and sense the approach of revenue cutters long before they appeared. Salt was Eliza's good luck charm, her uncanny first mate. It navigated the fog with an instinct that defied explanation, leading Eliza's ship through passages that would have doomed others. Once, it hissed and spat at a crate of what was supposed to be French lace, and when Eliza opened it, she found a trap set by a rival smuggler. The cat seemed to understand the whispers of the wind and the secrets of the tides. Its connection to Eliza was something deeper than simple affection. It was a mystical bond, a partnership forged in the dangerous dance of the smuggling trade. The cat was as much a part of the sea serpent's legend as its fearless captain, but their luck was not endless. One fateful night, a terrible gale descended upon the coast, a storm angrier than any Eliza had ever seen. She was returning from a final, profitable run, her ship heavy with treasure meant to buy her a new, honest life. The sea serpent fought bravely against the monstrous waves, but the sea was relentless. The ship was torn apart on the jagged rocks of a hidden cove known only to Eliza. She and her crew were lost to the churning water. All that remained was the legend of a brave captain, her secret treasure, and the loyal cat who was with her until the very end. After the shipwreck, something of salt remained in Brinewick. It was not the cat of flesh and bone, but its spirit, its echo. This was the beginning of the salt cat legend. The ghostly feline first appeared on the docks a week after the sea serpent was lost. A fisherman saw it, a shimmering form sitting at the end of the pier, staring out at the turbulent sea as if waiting for a ship that would never return. It was translucent, like spun moonlight and fog, and its eyes glowed with a soft, mournful light. When the fisherman tried to approach, the cat simply dissolved into the salty mist, leaving behind nothing but the scent of the ocean and an unnerving chill. The salt cat's abilities were stranger in death than they had been in life. It could walk through walls, its misty form drifting through the ancient stone of Brinewick's buildings. It left paw prints of pure wet salt on dry surfaces, patterns that would evaporate within minutes of being discovered. The cat was most often seen before a storm, its ghostly figure a silent sentinel against a darkening sky. It became a harbinger, a living barometer for the town's fishermen. If the salt cat was seen pacing anxiously along the shore, the boat stayed in the harbor no matter how clear the sky might seem at that moment. The cat was never wrong. Over the generations the story grew, fear mixed with respect. Parents told their children that the salt cat watched over the town, protecting it from the worst of the sea's fury, but that it also guarded something secret. They said it was bound to Eliza Marrow's lost treasure, and that it would lead anyone who was cruel or greedy to their doom upon the rocks. The cat became a moral compass for the town. Its legend was a reminder to be humble before the power of the ocean, and to be honest in your dealings, lest the ghostly guardian take notice. Its silent judgment was more feared than any lawman's. And so, the salt cat became Brinewick's spectral protector. It was a ghost born of loyalty, forever tied to the spot where its beloved human was lost. It watched over the sailors, warned of coming danger, and guarded a long-lost secret. The cat was no longer just Salt, Eliza Marrow's companion. It was the salt cat of Brinewick, a figure of folklore, a whisper in the wind, a permanent resident of the town's misty shoreline. Its lonely vigil continued night after night, year after year, a constant shimmering presence in the heart of the old coastal town. Centuries passed. The smuggling days faded into history, and Brinewick became a quiet, picturesque town that attracted tourists with its old-world charm. The legend of the salt cat endured, but for many, it was just that, a legend, a quaint story to tell visitors. Then, on a gray Tuesday in August of 2025, a historian named Mara arrived. Mara had a passion for forgotten stories and the truths hidden within local folklore. She had read about the salt cat in a dusty old book of coastal myths and, well, she felt a pull toward Brinewick, a sense that there was more to this tale than just a simple ghost story. She wanted to separate the facts from the fantasy. Mara began her work in the town's small archive, a room above the library that smelled of old paper and dust. She spent days poring over brittle shipping manifests, faded maps, and personal letters from the 18th century. She found numerous mentions of Captain Eliza Marrow and her ship, the Sea Serpent. The official records listed the ship as lost at sea during the Great Storm of 1798, but scattered among the official documents were unofficial accounts, mentions in diaries and letters of Eliza's unnatural cat and whispers of a vast treasure that went down with the ship. The townsfolk were polite but secretive, offering her vague warnings and knowing smiles when she asked about the cat. Her research painted a picture of Eliza as a brilliant and respected figure, not just a common criminal. She was a woman who commanded loyalty and was known for her sense of fairness. The more Mara learned about Eliza, the more the legend of the salt cat seemed less like a horror story and more like a tragedy. She felt a growing connection to this long-dead captain and her loyal pet. Mara started walking the coastline at dusk, gazing out at the sea and trying to imagine what it was like in Eliza's time. She felt the same wind, saw the same gray waves crashing on the shore. One evening, as a thick fog rolled in from the sea, blanketing the town in a soft gray silence, Mara decided to walk to the old stone pier. The air was cold and heavy with moisture. The fog was so dense, she could barely see the end of the pier. She thought about the stories, how the cat only appeared in the thickest fog. She didn't truly expect to see anything. She was a historian, a person of facts and evidence. But a part of her, the part that loved a good story, hoped. and as she stood there peering into the swirling mist she felt a sudden, sharp drop in temperature. A shape began to form in the fog at the very end of the pier. It was faint at first, a shimmer in the air, like heat rising from pavement. Then, it solidified. It was a cat. It was translucent, its form swirling like smoke, and its eyes glowed with a soft golden light. It was exactly as the legends described. Mara's heart pounded in her chest. This was not a trick of the light. The salt cat was real. It sat there for a long moment, its ghostly tail wrapped around its paws, and stared directly at Mara. There was no menace in its gaze, only an ancient sadness, and a strange quiet intelligence. The cat then turned, and leaped gracefully from the pier, not into the water, but onto the rocky shore below. It looked back at Mara one more time as if to say, "Follow." Her historian's mind screamed for her to be rational, to go back to the warmth of her rented cottage, but her curiosity, her deep-seated need to know the end of the story was stronger. She scrambled down the slippery stone steps at the side of the pier and followed the glowing feline. The cat moved with an eerie silence, its misty paws making no sound on the wet stones. It led her away from the town, along the dark and rugged coastline. The path was treacherous. The salt cat seemed to float over obstacles, but Mara had to climb over sharp rocks and navigate around deep tide pools. The fog was so thick that the ghost was the only thing she could see clearly, a small, moving beacon in the oppressive gray. It led her to a part of the coast marked on her old maps as Smuggler's Scar, a jagged inlet known for its dangerous currents and razor-sharp rocks. It was a place sailors avoided, a place where the sea was always angry. The cat paused at the base of a high, sheer cliff face, a wall of black rock that seemed impassable. The ghostly cat then did something unexpected. It walked directly toward the cliff and simply passed through it, vanishing into the solid rock. For a moment its light glowed from within the stone, illuminating a network of cracks. Mara hesitated, her breath catching in her throat. She ran her hand along the cold, wet surface of the cliff. Her fingers found a narrow fissure, almost completely hidden by seaweed and shadows. The opening was just wide enough for a person to squeeze through. With the fading glow of the salt cat as her guide, Mara took a deep breath and slipped into the darkness, leaving the sound of the waves behind her. The passage opened into a small sea cave, dry and sheltered from the storming waves outside. The air inside was still and smelled of salt and stone. The faint golden light of the salt cat illuminated the space. The ghost was sitting atop a collection of old sea-worn wooden chests, its form shimmering gently. This was it. This was Eliza Marrow's lost treasure. It wasn't a vast hoard of gold coins, as the legends claimed. Instead, the chests were filled with navigational tools, rare books, rolled-up charts of unexplored coastlines, and personal effects. It was a treasure of knowledge, not riches. Next to the chests, resting on a small makeshift table, was a leather-bound journal. Mara approached slowly, her eyes fixed on the ghost. The salt cat did not move. It simply watched her with its knowing, luminous eyes. She reached for the journal. Its leather cover was stiff but perfectly preserved in the dry air of the cave. She opened it to the first page. The handwriting was elegant and clear. "My name is Eliza Marrow," it began. As Mara read, the full story unfolded. This cave was Eliza's secret sanctuary. The treasure was her life savings, intended to fund a school for navigation in Brinewick, to teach others the ways of the sea safely. The final entry was written on the night of the storm. Eliza knew she was likely doomed. Her last wish was for her beloved salt to guard this place, to guide someone worthy to find it. The salt cat's purpose was not to hoard treasure or to haunt the town out of spite. It was a guardian, a loyal keeper of a final promise. It had been waiting for 2 centuries for someone with a pure heart and a curious mind, someone who would understand the true value of Eliza's legacy. As Mara finished reading the last entry, she looked up at the ghostly cat. Its form was beginning to fade, its light growing softer. It had fulfilled its duty. With a final, soft shimmer, the salt cat dissolved completely, leaving behind only the scent of the sea and a profound sense of peace. Its long, lonely watch was finally over. Mara brought the journal and the story back to the people of Brinewick. She proposed that the contents of the chests be used exactly as Eliza had intended. The town council agreed. They established a maritime museum and a scholarship fund in Eliza Marrow's name. The legend of the salt cat was transformed. It was no longer a story of fear but one of loyalty, resilience, and pride. The ghostly guardian became a beloved symbol of Brinewick, a testament to a brave woman and her extraordinarily faithful companion. The cat's spirit was finally at rest, but its story would now be told forever, not as a whisper in the fog, but as a proud chapter in the town's history.